Hi, my name's John LeMay, and welcome to my basement war room. Today, I'm going to talk to you about models. The reason I'm jumping into this is because in my series, The Great Military Philosophers on Afghanistan, I use models quite a bit. An example is when I talked about the model for national power, DIME, diplomacy, information, military economics, and suggested that geography should be added to it. So it should be DIME-G, or even something as simple as proposing a definition of tactics is getting into models. So today I'll talk about models, and then I'll give an example, and then I'll take a look at any of your questions and comments and discussion, and I'll address anything that you all post during this Facebook Live episode, and then I'll conclude. So let's jump into it. So models are useful because we as humans to perceive and understand the world. So when I look out using my five senses and primarily sight, I can only see in one direction, and I can only see a very small portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. And then of what I do see, it's difficult to understand. So if I'm talking to a person, I can hear them, I can see their body language, but I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what their motivations are. And I can sort of guess at what they're thinking, what their motivations are through assumptions and really through my own sort of conceptual models, but I don't know that. Also, if I look at something like a car, I could say something vague about thermodynamics, and that's how this car works. But I can't really explain to you how an internal combustion engine works. Now, some people can, but I can't. So models are useful because they let us make decisions, take action, make predictions, despite the fact that we cannot perfectly perceive and understand the world. Okay, so let me go ahead and give you an example of that. A great example is a map. The map is one of the most useful things that I have used, most useful tool and model I've used in my military career. And it's got some problems though. All maps are wrong. Now, if we take a look at this globe here, right? So this is the Earth is of course a three-dimensional object. And we take this globe and superimpose it on a flat map like this one, it is wrong. It's impossible to take a 3D object and put it on a two-dimensional object without compromising angles and shapes or proportions and sizes. And as a aside, back in antiquity, proportions and sizes were always what was prioritized. And so in the Age of Sail, the Mercator projection was a big deal because it prioritized angles, and that let people successfully sail across the ocean by keeping the angles right. It was a huge navigational aid. But if you look at a Mercator projection, I mean, it's completely wrong. It's obvious. It doesn't look like the world at all. So maps are very useful, but they're all wrong. And they're also wrong by scale and level of detail. Now, let me give you an example of this. So there I was. I was a lieutenant in Ranger School running around Fort Benning, specifically doing the land navigation course. And so without my map, I would have been hopelessly lost. I couldn't possibly perceive or understand the terrain of the training area, where everything was. But with my map and a compass, I was able to successfully navigate from point to point. So an incredibly useful tool. But while I was navigating from point to point, I stepped on a rattlesnake. That rattlesnake was not on my map. So my map was wrong, despite being a very useful tool. Okay, so I talked about models, why they're important. They're all wrong, but some are useful, and gave an example. Now let me see if there's any comments here for me to address. So I don't see any. Let's take a look here. I'm a little bit of a novice at social media, so bear with me here. Okay, I think that confirms it. There's no comments. Thank you very much for joining me today, and please do comment in the future during the live or just on the Facebook group or on the page, because sitting here in my basement, I don't have all the answers. I definitely need your input to capture the lessons of the Iraq and Afghanistan war. Also, I encourage you, join the Facebook page, Lessons of the Afghanistan and Iraq Wars, because the page, I've made it a social learning page, and it lets me post documents I wouldn't otherwise have. And so please join that page and check out the notes from my formal lectures. And then also, if you want to go a little bit deeper behind the scenes, go ahead and sign up for the newsletter. Again, thank you for joining me today.